So let's see, what do I want to share first? Okay, I'm going to kind of overview a tag basics session. Okay, I'm calling it level 1. Something that you would have the information, ability to do and apply these processes for yourself or for anyone else once you finish this course. And that's what we'll take into the practicum. So as we go into the practicum and meet twice a month, I will want to know, it's kind of like also an accountability place as well as a growing place. Have you applied them to yourself? What have you applied to yourself? Are you applying it to others? What's the application to others? So it's really a time that you're going to be encouraged to use these processes and talk about what that was like, so you can learn through that experience of doing. Okay, so if you want to just sit quietly in your imagination, and we're going to go through that some basic, that we already have. So your client has come to you and you've set up a time that you're going to talk to them. If you're online, what I usually do is have maybe a 20-minute conversation before so they can tell me what's going on for them. And I can tell them what I could offer. This is what's going on for them, the pain. This is where they want to be. And in that gap, what is it that you could offer? That's what that initial conversation might be, if they're just exploring the possibility. Where are they now, which is called the pain? Where do they want to be? There's a gap between it, and they don't know how to put pieces together to walk them up and bridge them from their pain to their next magnificence. And that's where you'll be able to say, this is what I could add, da, da, da. They schedule time with you. And again, I did one in-person session a week ago. It's the first in-person session I've done for a long time, of course. So now when you meet with them the second time, they've already set up a time and paid you whatever you've said to pay. That takes it from conversation into session. The payment takes it into a session. So with me, when I'm doing online work, I have a button where they can schedule time. And then they have a button where they can pay for a session. I had one woman who set up a time, wanted me to do some work with her. I told her about the button. She didn't go and do a button. And I thought, what do I do? Am I going to do the work and then see if she's going to pay me? I mean, what do I do here? And that's when I got very clear that a request for information is a request for information. Even though she said, this is what I'm dealing with, I know you can help me, and I really would like your help in doing a session. I said, great, here's the payment button. So the day came and she hadn't paid, and I didn't know why she hadn't paid, but it's not up to me to determine that. I had emailed her and said, I assume because you haven't paid that this is just a conversation. She didn't get that email, so now I had to, do that in the Zoom and explain to her that when she sets up a time with me to talk, that's the time to talk. And the thing that takes it into a work session is the payment. So, some of these non-negotiables, I used to would have been a time in the past when I would have done a session and then kind of tippy-toed around the payment during the session. So conversation is not a session. It's a conversation. Payment triggers, whatever payment it is, triggers the work. So you do the work. I'm doing it offline, but you can also do it, face-to-face on Zoom, right directly in Zoom if you want to, where you say, okay, tell me again, where are you? This is how tag works. And I show them the spiral. I'm going to work in all 64 dimensions. I'm going to put you on it, when I'm working with them in person, I'm going to put them on the table. I'm going to put a little blanket over them. They'll be fully clothed. because I'm going to put stones and nature objects around them because they create a vibrational field of stability. All of this is teaching. And you could go through all of that without saying a word if you chose to. But early on, I found my people wanted to know what the hell I was doing and why. So I don't do it in silence. I do it, I tell them. If I'm doing an online a long distance session, then I do kind of that same thing, but I'm doing it in my own quiet meditative space. So I set the space, cocoon them. I call in their guides. I call in my guides. And then I set that when you cocoon their space, additionally, if you wanted to, you can use the cutout of a person and put stones and crystals and make that a surrogate for the person, however you want to do it. And for some people, that's really fun to do. You've got them now cocooned. If you're working with them personally, you're going to take them on a little quieted journey where they can go to a place where they feel safe. Okay. All of that is setting the space, determining who and what you'll be working with, etc. Calling in their team, their causal team. And I'm going to go over the causal team. I think you understand it, but I'm just going to go over it. When a soul decides to incarnate in that seventh dimensional world, they call to themselves comrades or people that they trust, that they feel these people are who I want to have hold my back. And together, birth plans are made. That's the causal team. They help make the birth plans. They're the brainstorms. They might be, have questions to help you refine. Causal team. They know your plans, your ideas, and they know what that is, and they're going to hold that for you. It's like they're holding that software for you. Even though it's downloaded into the fifth dimension, right between where the mental and emotional body, the frequency there, that's where it's placed, like the hard drive of your computer. But the causal team is there with you. So when we're doing a session, I call in their causal team. I call in their higher selves to communicate with the higher self, and with any of healers, that guides that work with them. And that's all part of setting space. That then what you're would be doing is you would activate specific types of practices or processes. So what I do is go to the top of the head, if I'm doing it doing it in person, and activate the tag matrix 1. Now I'm going to show you an example, and you'll get a handout of this. I'm going to show you and this is based on the universal law of ask and you will receive. So these are the commands that are given over to their higher self. And you see, Emma's helping me edit it. So all these points are things I have to do some definitions on. So they go through and they do all of these steps by steps, they go through, and these are the things they do. By just activating the tag level 1. And this is only a portion of the program. You see all those things that they activate and clear, activate and clear. Check this out. Go back over it. You see? That's tag matrix 1. It's the most intensive group of decrees that we have, because it begins massive cleaning, massive clearing. And as soon as I have that defined, and it'll be in a handout, so you'll know what you are asking be done.
Sharon, I have a question.
Yes.
When we activate the tag matrix, it's assuming that all those steps happen, or similar with the evolutionary blueprint in our minds, do we want to be going through each line?
Oh, I'm sorry, I muted you. You don't have to go through them. You don't have to go through those long. Has nothing to do with the matrix, the evolutionary matrix.
No, I use it just as an example. So if I say activate the tag matrix, am I assuming that every single one of those steps happens, or am I going through it in my mind one by one saying I now want to activate? I'm just trying to understand, because I remember the other diagram where we saw the list of the chakras. Do I want to go into details, or do I just kind of assume that this, by activating it, it takes care of it automatically?
By activating it, what you've said, basically, you've turned this entire list over to their team of healers, which is part of the tag group, and they will go through every one of those steps. Now, it may not be done during one session. It might take 2 or 3 days, but they will go through every one of these steps. This we haven't even looked at before. This is totally, I mean, it's not new to me, but I've never shared this part of what that tag matrix does. Activate tag matrix 1. Now, in those steps, their higher self and their team might say, let's see, we can go through and we want to, what this person needs is we need to, okay, we're going to go, but we need to go, we need to go through those steps over and over again, because it gets deeper and deeper. Okay, now we can go down to these. Now we'll do these. So the teams, no matter if they're consciously in your workspace, or if you've activated because you feel to activate it on someone long distance or someone vicariously, those steps will be done in the order that their team knows is for their highest good, and for the length of time their team knows is the best way for them to have it done. Okay. So when we activate tag matrix 1, this begins a massive clearing of their field. And I'm going to show you this. I think this will work. I put this together this morning because I thought it would be helpful. Let's see if it is. Okay. So
Erin,
yes.
So it's kind of like when we push a button for something to happen on the computer, and there's all these things that happen in the background, but all we know is I push this button and Zoom pops up.
Exactly.
I have no idea what's happening behind the scenes. I just know that something is happening, and I'm trusting to get me to where I want it to bring me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Emma. That's good. That's a really good point. So here I'm going to show you this particular little new model and see what happens. Okay, so here we are. Here's a picture of our energy field. It has nothing in it, but we know that down here is a cause that will cause something to happen. It's the very tip of the iceberg. And it may have been invasion from the outsiders. It may have been a story they put into our energy field. If it is imbalanced, it certainly has this will be the basic cause. That's where they're the ones who began the imbalance. But there could also be repeating situations that we participated in for some reason. Okay, so let's take this, and this is really more a picture of what is in our galactic landscape, our galactic experience. So we have all these wounds, we have contracts, and not only that, they're tied up with group mind, and we can't individually extradite ourselves from it. And additionally, there are those of outsiders who are absolutely holding it in place. And these guys, outsiders, feed on our light. They feed on our love energy. They feed on it. Has no impact to change them. They feed on it. And that's a small amount of what was actually in those. This is all the galactic world experiences. And now we come into incarnation. Let's see if I can get this one. Well, I'm going to start first. And we have this one up here. And so we have our own personal storage of stuff we bring in that we personally have experienced in other lifetimes, that we don't even know exactly what all that's about, but we've got that to deal with. Let's bring this up. Well, I know what I can do. I can do this. I think I'll paste up here. Maybe we'll see. Nope. And then we have our genetic trauma storage. So most of us don't have no idea what that's about, but that's also cluttery up there. And then we are connected to all kinds of group minds who think certain ways and not other ways. And we're trapped also in that storage. And additionally, you could duplicate it and say, and we have a female psyche storage, and we have humanity, earth is awful storage, you see? So pouring love and light into a situation up here, this is the situation that we know, the manifested. Love and light is not going to change that massively. It might give us some strength, it might give us a breath of fresh air, but it is not going to eliminate the majority of what we've been dealing with. And so when I said, what is the cause? Why is humanity cycling in pain? And where can I go to learn how to get us out of it? They said it's not being done that way on the planet.
Sharon,
Yes.
what would it look like if we were fully healed? Would everything here be gone?
Well, when you take out the outsiders, which we are pretty much, what you do is you have all the created stuff gone, right?
Right?
Whoops. I'm going to do this. Okay, here we go. And so then what you have is you have incarnation and birth, but the cause down here is not invasion. The cause is I want to extend myself from source and experience joy. So I have all the possibilities, all the harmonics of joy. Then I have all the kinds of experiences of joy, of how to be there, how to do that, what coloration it is. And so this is filled then. Groups are creating it, groups are supportive of it, and that's what we bring into this. And so the outpicturing here is different forms of joy.
Okay, that really helps me to know what we're moving toward.
And the sovereignty that we're looking for, let me move this one down, this orange one down. The sovereignty we're looking for is getting these outsiders out of the picture. They keep us out of sovereignty. They keep us in ownership. So that's been the first phase, is to get these outsiders out of the picture. Then we could, and we've had to do hand in hand. We've had to heal ourselves as we worked with them. But phase one is them, they are out of the picture. Then understanding our contracts, understanding our group mind, would have also been part of the picture. So what this, let me share this one. And so what this tag matrix one takes into consideration is that all of that exists. And let's just go after all of it, and clear and clear and clear, as massively, as powerfully, and yet as gently as possible, because I didn't want people throwing up, spending their life in the bathroom as a proof that the work was working. That was so as gentle as possible. So that's a matrix one. So when right when you get, you've gotten your client quieted, stabilized in whatever fashion, long distance or whatever, nature objects around them, cocoons around them. So do you see why it's important that you have that vibrational cocoon around them, or nature stones around them? Because this is major energy shift. And so there's got to be that wholeness, that it keeps, that the body itself, the bodies can keep bringing resonance back to wholeness. Those nature items will not get caught up in the mess, except for clear crystals. I'd never use clear crystals during a tag session. It's not the place for the clear crystals, because they'll pick up anything and then broadcast it. You don't want that to happen. You want them to, that's why the river stones, they're steady, they're all color, what the body needs as it's going through, all there it is, can grab hold of that steady physical stone. So even in long distance work, I suggest if people want to put stones in their hands or hold them and do a quiet meditation and bringing that sessions to them, that they can put stones around them too, or essential oils, or the elixirs that Susan makes. All of those are really important. But there's a lot of energy movement with activating tag matrix 1, and I do that right after the body's stabilized. I check out the chakras, and we haven't done that too much because that we'll talk about that a little bit. Check out the chakras. Then when I got that information, then I activate tag matrix 1, and this is what the team begins doing. Okay. So do you need another break yet? Does anybody, if you need a break, raise your hand. Otherwise, we'll go for just a bit longer. Okay. So, and again, I just, I've been looking for this writings for a long time, because I wrote it down, all this down in 98. And then it was kind of lost in my move. So I want to kind of bring it up to date, and because this contains nothing of everything that has happened since then. That is also part of what we do, but this is the basic session of clearing. Okay. So once that clearing is done, the next thing I do before I sit down to work on their issue, because in a tag level 1, you're going to have 1 or maybe 2 issues only, 1 or 2 issues only, because you're not going to have time to do a lot. 1 or 2 issues only. So before you sit down to do your personal secretary work of that and dialogue work, then what you do is you're going to activate the 11th hour protocol. And some of you know that, some of you don't, but we're going to go over it because I want everybody to be up to date on it. I talked about the causal team, how in our 7th world, in the 7th world, where we choose now to incarnate, I'm going to come into this lifetime. I have my causal team here helping me design what that might look like, what I want to accomplish, etc. One of the things we decide is how much and which patterns of negativity I'm going to bring in with me in order to have it on the planet in a physical bodysuit so that it can be transformed instantly. So we might bring in, let's say 1,200 pounds of what I'll just call density, of negative density. It's patterns, your pattern, genetic pattern, group mind pattern, at 1,200 pounds. And it is intended, we intended that 90% of those patterns would be spoken away by request only, by age 1. Anybody you come in contact with who is older than 1 is eligible for the 11th hour protocol, because they've passed the deadline. Now they're in the 11th hour. They could die anytime, really. And if they don't get those cleared, they go with them to be picked up by somebody else, and it just keeps the garbage going. Those 90% are marked. They have a mark on them. They are identifiable. And the way it works with little ones, like little Sarah, is that when moms and dads know that, grannies and aunties know that, they can just bless it away by holding, clear the patterns marked for density, singing the baby, bouncing the baby, in whatever way they want to. They can ask for the 11th hour protocol to be active to remove or transform the marked patterns. So now you, in behalf of your client, are doing that as if they were below one, and just say to their team, I'm activating the 11th hour protocol on the patterns marked for removal by one. Now that program gets in place. You don't have to know anything. You don't need to know which patterns, nothing. It's just they're marked. You're asking, it will be done. Yes, Emma?
Is that is that the causal team that does that?
No, the causal team might know where they, clearly know what they are, but it's the healing team that does that.
Okay.
The causal team.
Can you say the statement again?
Yeah, you just say, I'm activating the 11th hour protocol on the negative patterns marked for removal.
Okay, thank you.
You can even just say, I'm activating the 11th hour protocol. I mean, but for us to understand, it's like they're marked for removal.
Okay.
Okay, so that now, I've never had to do this. I'm gonna say this because you after I'm activating the tag level matrix 1, which is that huge clearing program. I'm activating tag level matrix 1. You healing team, do you have it? Yes. Is there anything more you need about that from me? Because you are working in team, so you're giving the permission, but you certainly could say, "Have you got it? Is there anything more you need?" And communicate, relate. Great. Now I'm activating the 11th hour protocol. Healing team, do you have it? Causal team, are you involved? Whatever, anybody else need more from me? Great. Now they've got it. You can let go. And then this is where then you would move into, what I often do is just, if I'm doing it in person, it's a little bit different, but you can also adapt it and do similar, just going through and kind of energetically imagining the energy, blessing the energy, everything's being done for the highest good. Great. Now that the teams doing those works have the client in tow, and they're going to do it. Now you can sit down with the question. You've already put the issue in a box, ice cubed it, freeze framed it. I'll be dealing with you later, which is now coming. The later is after you've activated these other programs. So then that's when you walk into the work we've been practicing. The issue, what's the pattern that the issue came from? Go back to where you need to go to, where can I go to make a change in that decision, and then reframe the story so that a new energy flow comes forward, giving a new reality statement, doing whatever a healing and imagination, conversation and imagination you need to do, so that now that your client has a different story that they can anchor, that will anchor for them. Now, if you were working, let's say you were like B, your client has come to you and they want to have you do, the Build Your Life protocol, right? You can put together, and what you would want to do is ask the team, we each have a tag team and I don't know if I've said to you, make sure you have your own component of the tag team. So you could say to your team, we want to tailor this work for my work. So you could use when your client is coming to you, as you set your space, you design your space so that when they're with you, your space is already set up. That says, when they're meeting with me, their healers are there. And when they come into my space, the 11th hour is activated. The tag matrix 1 is activated. They are cocooned. You can set all that up by intention and never say a word to them about all the background stuff. They just might know, oh, it feels really good in here. You see, but all of that's been set up so that when you give them new tools around what they're asking for, they don't have that old baggage saying you can't. Okay.
Sharon, I know that it's not really complicated, but it sounds really complicated.
Mhm.
So like, if you're an experienced, obviously, tag practitioner, how long does a tag session take up until we sit down to ask those specific questions?
Well, not very long.
Okay,
Not very long, because how long does it take you to, and when you're doing long distance work, for example, you've already set up the space. So when I sit down to do the actual work myself, I've already cocooned them. I've already cocooned them. As soon as they book, I cocoon them. I freeze frame their issue that's already in place. I call for their teams, and I give their teams permission to begin activating the tag matrix level 1 when they set the session. You see? So
all right, so that's all
it's
prepared.
already in place. It's already begun, and so when I sit down, I just check back in with the team and says, "How's it going? How's the level 1 going? Is it doing great? Anything I need to know more? No. What about the 11th hour? No." So that there's a lot that will be being done before I sit down and do my personal work.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You have to realize that as I went and when I did a personal session this time, I did not download the evolutionary blueprint. It didn't feel right. And this person has come to me before. It had nothing to do with her. It had to do with everything that the tag basic does needed to be let go, let that do its work. And I'm really leaning toward that the evolutionary download is a separate session. I'm really leaning toward that. But it comes after a basic session, and maybe a week or two between, even, so that the basic session has time to do what it needs to do to clear the field as much as possible, and then the evolutionary blueprint.
So will you kind of roll that into your protocol without necessarily advertising the blueprint download as a separate thing?
Yeah, I would not advertise to do a download. No, it's like the Mothership Alliance asked me to do part of their closing, and because and it was all about the Lionsgate. It was like 8 weeks. It was lots of little options and lots of things they did. I don't know what all, but they just had some really good things. And so I'm doing a closure, and we want to open the door for the download. And I knew it wasn't. It was only opening the door for the download. It was not doing the download on these people. I was told very clearly no. So I explained, where we were. I explained about, and they totally understand, like witch hunts and women and what we need personally to get our, and so what I did is I did a ceremony on maternal healing as a preparation for an evolutionary download if they chose to connect with me.
Okay, okay, that
And
makes sense.
I don't, and I wouldn't do it in group.
Okay.
At this point, I wouldn't do it in group. So
Can I just say to Bita, don't be stressed. Don't be stressed about this. In terms of Sarah, like having to like do this with Sarah. It's
Yeah.
like, this is just part of the energy of this group and we're all holding you.
You.
Yeah.
It's been non-stop crying for the last hour, so.
I am so
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you for what you said, though.
Sure.
But I'm impressed that you're hanging in there, B. Because whatever it is that's there for you to get right now, you're getting it. You know, and you haven't checked out, you haven't said, I'm out of here. So kudos to you for that. Yeah. So, you know, doing a tag session, activating such major clearing through the 11th hour, through the tag matrix alone, that is huge. That's not available in any other system to that degree that I'm aware of. So if that's all you did in a tag matrix 1 session, is hold that and activated that and create some kind of a ceremony, you know, even if you just, you know, doing a dialogue, anything you wanted to add to that would be really magnificent. So adding one issue so that there's something that you can pull specifically, that's pulling a specific kernel that you can say to this person, here's a story that we're rewriting, and here's how you can anchor it, is really very powerful. And then giving, and always it's important to have some takeaways for them, like the reality statement work, even if it's just taking their goal as a reality statement and their willingness to put it through the reality shift rather than just having a statement, or taking the statement, understanding the shift and putting the statement into 2 or 3 words as a mantra. And then the deep 6 is sufficient. That those takeaways is sufficient and really will take them take them into a new place. Emma?
Okay, I have another question.
Yeah.
So what do you do with clients that, like I have often been, who are like, I don't know what my issue is. I just know that there's something wrong, there's something off, and I don't know what my issue is. Is that how you would just say, you know, kind of treat for clarity? Or
No, what I would do, I would say, I hear you. Most of our issues that we've kept from ourselves, and they're unconscious. So I'm just going to check in with your team and see what they think would be the most important issue to heal or change and transform for you today. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you could use that same process, but say to their healing team, what is the pattern that's most important to be changed today?
Okay.
And then go through the same process.
Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So,
Oh, sorry, Sharon, just real quick. What you just said, I found really interesting, and I'm curious as to, do we want to ask that question anyways, even if they do say, these are my 2 issues, do we want to ask their team to see if there's something, you know what I mean? Like maybe there's something even deeper and they're just scratching a surface level.
well, they are scratching the surface level, but you can't do it all in one session. So if they're seeing something and speaking it, that's part of their waking up is part of them being radically responsible. And so that's enough. It's enough for this session. There are definitely, as you get into level 2 and level 3, there's definitely times I've said, what's most important to be done today, and ask their team about that. But because of the great amount of clearing that's going to be done, the value of you taking their word for it, this is what's hurting, you see, and giving them feedback of, yes, absolutely, and here's a pattern. How many times I've had clients say, oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense. Oh my gosh, how did you know? It validates their voice in a way they don't get in very many places. So it validates their voice. Oh, that's what it is. Oh, yes. And this is what, this is how we're rewriting the story. Okay. And everyone has to decide how much information to share with each client. And that's kind of meeting them where they're at. So I've been erroring probably on the side of talking too much and explaining too much, because I want to educate. And so whatever it is, this is where you bring your own passion, what you love to do, to the table. And so, like, yeah, so I could bring to mind Cinda's ceremony. She doesn't say this is I mean, she brings an experiential interaction piece to it, and that fits. And so you don't have to say, and this is a story I found, you can, or whatever, this is what I did, you can, whatever. But clients may not, especially a level 1 person, might not be ready to know all the details. They just want to know, if here you use this, you anchor this, it will activate the session. If there's other things that you want to change, here's the reality shift to do it. And you're in the right place. And I'm so glad you came to me is sufficient. So Alex, I'm assuming you're somewhere hearing. So Alex, you can also set up, it's like imagine that your family is in your healing room. And so what does your healing room contain? It contains at every corner healing teams right there in your healing room. It contains a special place for the causal teams to be heard. So Alex, if you think about, you're working with your family in more direct, condensed ways than you maybe normally would. And so they're all coming together, not for you to do personal sessions on them, but to have the work done in their behalf, as if they were in your healing room. So you've got teams in every corner of your healing room, and your healing room is a large space. And you have their causal team who is there speaking to them, connecting to them, whispering to them. You've invited in their causal teams. You activate the tag matrix level 1 within that space, so that action is going on for everybody who's in that space. And you hold a reality shift. What is it you would like that your family be at the end of, the next 2 or 3 weeks or month, or how long this process is taking? Then that's the reality statement you write. It would be maybe something like, the process my family is going through is bringing up that which needs to be healed, which is done with great integrity with the tag team, and we are feeling more generous, kind, and loving of one another at the end. You see, then it would be no different than if your people came to you at you have a business. Your business is your healing space. Design it and activate it and hold an outcome of everyone who comes into your healing space that you call business. So you can take these principles and use your imagination, and it is really valuable to have the experience of working on others as well as yourself. And absolutely, when I started this, I had nobody in the world, in the physical world, who could mentor me, and there was nobody. And so, all the things that I was being told and how to work and how to apply, I had to do it just because I had said I would. And I was working on people I didn't even know, telling them things about themselves that they got through the pendulum. And it can be really scary, but it can also be really exciting. And I have yet to have a client that says, man, that is totally off base. It's like, oh my God, how did you know? Oh, that makes perfect sense. So again, your spiritual team, guides and teachers have the qualities of, and absolutely that's what they bring through. Okay. Wow, you guys all hung in, even little Sarah. Yeah. As
Sharon.
yes, Alex.
Yeah, I heard that. I was just in another room and I had
Good.
my phone with me.
Okay.
Okay. That was very valuable. I have kind of a specific concern that I don't quite know how to handle. To make a very long story short, I was left the piece of property that had the original let home place on it. And the reason that was done is that my parents knew that I was the gypsy in the family, and that I was the only one who might not have a house or whatever. So she wanted me to always have a house that was paid for and available to come home to after they died.
Mm-hmm.
Well, during this sale of property, I sold the home place to my nephew and his wife because they had asked first, but they had promised they would not tear it down. But now they're going to tear it down. And so my sister, who was always the perfect child, never made any waves and always did everything right and took care of mom and dad, she is not happy because she said if I had sold the home place to her, she would have restored it. So that's one of the conflicts that we're dealing with. And I said to everybody, I made a mistake. I should have sold this property a long time ago because now we're just all in flux and everybody wants this and wants that. And, it's just a very difficult thing because the original piece was 400 acres. And I'm the sixth generation to grow up in this area. And so one thing I guess I would like to ask is what kind of protocol or process could I do about the house itself?
Well, you put the house itself and the land itself into a guardian circle, into the 3 layers of the guardian circle protocol, and call it the PTO, and call in the PTO, because it is attracting, that whole interaction is attracting all kinds of outsiders who would love to keep things stirred up. So it's attracting outsiders beyond whatever is already there. So bring in the PTO immediately and have them constantly working, because it will give the benefit that brings will benefit all of humanity, because they might be coming from Texas and Afghanistan and India. I mean, who knows where they're coming from? But they're going to be coming in greater droves, because here's the big, huge conflict that they can feed off of, right? So great, let them come and activate the PTO guard and the guardianship circle. Say, hey, move them on, and keep that definitely going. Okay. The land itself has an intelligence. So, so you
Mhm.
could ask, you could even ask with your pendulum, what color, what is the intention of this land? Is it red, yellow, orange, whatever? And look for the clear. This land's intention is to be a place of blank. It might be you want to know what the land has in mind for itself.
Okay.
Because what you're talking about is what all these different people have, and everybody has their own idea about what they want and what's right and what's wrong. PTO needs to be there for that kind of confrontation. And then, they're in your healing space. So activate the tag matrix level 1, because they're going to be all churned up. Let that happen. And what you would hold is that this land is fulfilling the purpose for which it was formed. And what's the color? Get a color. It might be yellow, it might be blue, it might be, and identify it that this land is now in the place where it can experience and give the gifts for which it was intended, which are the gifts of, let's say, blue, peace. That's the end result. See, so you hold the end result, and that's what you hold. You keep feeding the end result, that's plan A, the end result. All these other plans are made up ideas and contain outsiders and patterns and all of that. Turn over to the tag matrix team to heal, PTO team to clear, and you energize the purpose for the land. Does that help?
Okay. Yes, it does. Uh-huh.
And that's the same. You work on anything, big or little, Okay, my friends. Playtime with Sarah. You did pretty good with her B.
I thought I was gonna lose my mind. Oh my God.
I mean, really, I pretty much let go of everything when I had, and I don't know that was the best thing to do, but it's kind of what I had to do to be sane when I had kids. So kudos, you did great. You did great. Okay.
Thank you, Sharon. This
Yeah.
was really brought it to a whole different level of understanding for me.
Good. I'm glad.
Mhm.
And I got a text from Susan. She had been really sick last night, was able to get into her work, her healer work this morning. And so she had her own thing she needed to do and got that done. So kudos to her and Christina for taking the time she needed for herself too. Okay, so next week, I think what we're going to do is probably do some kind of spend time with each other in one-on-one practices and look at what a practicum might look like. And there you go. Wow, thank you much. Thank you, Circle, for holding us so well. We're not pulling our roots out. We're staying in the rooted space and just letting the circle be broadcast way beyond ourselves as we go our way. So I'll see you when I see you again.
Okay.
Lots of love,
Bye.
everyone. Bye-bye.